Thank you so much for watching Landumc Goes There. Please subscribe and hit the like button and the bell notification button. The Wickerman is a 1973 British folk horror film that was directed by Robin Hardy. The movie stars Edward Woodward, Britt Ekland, Diane Salento, Ingrid Pitt, and Christopher Lee. The movie is very well regarded by the critics, and a lot of people call it the Citizen Kane of horror movies. It's a horror movie of a different sort. I'm somewhat taken back by most horror movies and don't really enjoy them, but I have to admit, this is a pretty good film. The storyline goes that Sergeant Neil Howie arrives on a British Isle looking for a missing teenage girl named Rowan Morrison. The place actually belongs to a guy named Lord Summerisle, and it's famous because of their apples and other fruits and their bountiful harvest. Sergeant Howie realizes that the locals are pagans practicing old rituals, and that Rowan is probably alive and being prepared to be sacrificed. He becomes bound and determined to get to the bottom of her disappearance, leading to the very end of the story that has a most tragic surprise. The movie was produced at a time of crisis for the British film industry. The studio in charge of productions, British Lion Films, was in terrible financial trouble and was bought by wealthy businessman John Bentley to convince the unions that he was not about to asset strip the company. Bentley needed to get a film into production pretty quickly. This meant that the movie, a film which was set during springtime, actually began filming in October of 1972. Artificial leaves and blossoms had to be glued to the trees in many scenes. The production was kept on a very small budget. The movie was shot almost entirely in small Scottish towns. The climax of the film was shot on the cliff tops of Burrow Head. Some people have claimed that a lot of animals perished during the production of the film, but others also say that great care was taken to ensure that the animals were not in danger or being hurt in the final scene. The Evil Eye rowing boat, which takes Sergeant Howie to and from his plane, was not constructed for the movie at all. It actually belonged to a resident of the small town they were filming at. Upon seeing this boat, the producers decided that it would suit the film perfectly. This boat survived until 2004, when it was completely destroyed in a storm. Many years after making the film, Edward Woodward, who played Sergeant Howie, revisited some of the locations, and he claimed that he found the makeshift cross that he makes out of some pieces of wood in the film, and it was still intact as he had left it in the original scene. Now, many people have wondered and needed an explanation for one of the scenes that was in the film. That scene involves a woman with an egg in her hand nursing a baby while sitting in a graveyard. This scene is really a true fertility ritual, and she is sitting there hoping for another baby, that she will be blessed in that way. The screenwriter, Anthony Schaefer, wanted the film to be a little bit more literate than the average horror film. He specifically wanted a movie with a minimum amount of violence and gore. He was tired of seeing horror movies that relied mostly on graphic violence to be scary. The focus of this movie was crystallized when he finally hit upon the abstract concept of sacrifice. The negative for the movie and also the outtakes for the film were stored in a vault at Shepperton Studios. After the company was purchased by new owners, they ordered that the vault be cleared of all the old material that was in it. The vault manager accidentally put the negatives, which just arrived from the lab, with the ones that were destroyed. And a rumor goes even farther than that, saying that that original full-length negative was used as landfill in the construction of the M3 motorway in England. Christopher Lee says that that was done apparently on purpose because of Michael Dealey's total dislike for the movie. The 1970s was a pretty crazy time in Britain. The swinging 60s had left quite an impact on the nation, and the sexual repression was slowly lifting. It was at this time that the filmmakers started to explore sexuality very differently. Nudity on film had once been a source of scandal and controversy, but its growing use was being treated more naturally by the filmmakers and audiences. The Wickerman director, Robin Hardy, intended to explore this as much as he could, creating a contemporary society that was pre-Christian and quite liberal when it came to sexual matters. One of the real recurring themes for the residents of Summer Isle was a sexual freedom that resulted in a lot of nude cavorting and dancing. All of this was done to show the islanders' strong connection to nature, alongside angering and provoking the film's protagonist, who is a devout Christian. The sacrifice at the end of the film is specifically defined as a death and rebirth ritual. In comparative mythology, such rituals are associated with the theme of a dying and rising deity. These are deities who die or become trapped in the underworld, yet return to the living. The gods that they worship in the film are supposed to be Celtic deities. Ingrid Pitt said she got involved in the film when she heard about it, and she gave the director a call. She had met him briefly a short time before this. She asked if there was a possibility that there was any parts in it for her. He admitted that the main cast was complete, but he mentioned that he did have a role of the librarian that was still up for grabs. She immediately rushed to the casting director, named Peter Snell, to try to get him convinced that she was needed for that part. He went ahead and gave her the job, and a couple of weeks later, she was freezing her bottom off in the Highlands. Now, Brett Ackland has completely distanced herself from this movie because during the time of the filming, she was pregnant with her son, and she only agreed to shoot nude scenes from the waist up. A body double was used by the name of Lorraine Peters. This was a girl that they had found at a strip club. And it was also secretly done so that they could film the full rear body shots of Willow dancing. These scenes were filmed after Britt had left the set. When shooting of the film was completely over, she was furious to learn that she had been doubled in these shots. She didn't like the fact that they were showing her completely nude, even though it was a body double. To this very day, whenever she is approached by fans to autograph still photos of that fully nude scene, she always refuses, because as she continually points out, it's really not her. As I said earlier, I'm not a big fan of horror movies, but this one kind of stands alone. This is very well done and was a pleasure to watch. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll continue to chase the classics.